Hello there. I'm Greg Gutfeld with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Jesse Waters, and she commutes using Ladybug Uber. Dana Perino. The 5. A stunning admission. Even Hillary Clinton confesses that the media kept her husband's presidency afloat when he and his unbuttoned trousers should have been sent packing. At a Clinton Foundation event marking the 25th anniversary of the '92 election, I wasn't invited. She said Bill wouldn't have survived if Fox News was around.
Our body politic's immune system has been impaired because there has been a concerted effort starting with the creation of the Fox network. It wasn't there when Bill first ran. It was one of the reasons he probably survived.
Boy, he looks thrilled. He's saying, please shoot me. Now, she makes this claim while many in the media now admit that Bill should have resigned after the Lewinsky scandal. So isn't Hillary agreeing with these new critics by saying that FNC wouldn't have let Bill slide, but the media monopoly did? So without knowing it, Hillary exposed the media's lack of guts while saluting Fox's. It's hilarious. She also claims that Bill wouldn't have tweeted about his achievements as president. Someone should tell her Twitter wasn't around back then. Hillary, Twitter wasn't around back then. But what a blind spot she has to think that not tweeting makes Bill a man of sound character. He violated an intern in the Oval Office's sorry, I take the tweeting instead, which raises the question, what if FNC and Twitter had been around back then when Bill was president? How would that have changed things? Twitter would have kept Bill busy, and Fox would have kept him in line, and perhaps Hillary would have ended up president. How hilarious is that? If Fox News was around, Hillary would have been president. Instead, Bill got away with all sorts of crap as the media covered for him. And now they call him on it years later only because there's no consequences. You can't throw a bum out that's been out for 17 years. So, Hillary, I'm glad you enjoyed the party at the Clinton Foundation. I hoped Russia picked up the tab and someone besides Bill brought the cigars. So isn't it, Dana, isn't this the irony? Is that she's coming out against two things that if they existed probably would have paved the way for her presidency. Because if Clinton had been impeached and resigned, that would have given them more moral authority to go after somebody like Trump.
Yeah. Well, and also, I absolutely think that Bill Clinton would have used Twitter if it had been around
Oh, absolutely.
at the time.
At least to pick up girls. They would have used Tinder, Twitter.
Does that work?
He'd be sliding into the DMs.
He'd be in the DMs. He would have been free Anthony
It was
Weiner.
really interesting to spend the weekend listening to a lot of commentary and reading people have sort of revisionist history of what it was like in 1997. I just remember very specifically for me, I was 23 years old. I was working for a member of Congress, and I was sitting there watching this. And like, surely somebody's going to defend this woman, right? Like, surely they're not going to absolutely just throw her under the bus. And that never happened. And they're doing it now. And then you hear them say, well, things are different now. Like, well, what is actually different? The only thing that's different is there's a different president in the Oval Office. Maybe the fact that we're like exposed, basically every media sector or technology sector, economic sector is affected by this problem of sexual harassment. But I always thought about that as a young girl, as an intern. It was his responsibility, and they all covered for him. And so now, in 1992, looking back, it can't be that people were so blind at the time. It's that they were willfully blind.
Yeah, it was not a big deal. Can we show this is another clip of Hillary talking about Trump, which is hilarious.
Apparently, you know, my former opponent is obsessed with my speaking out. Apparently there was somebody told me tweet today. Honestly, between tweeting and golfing, how does he get anything done? I don't understand it. So maybe that's the whole point.
Well, you know what, Kimberly?
I don't think Bill liked that.
Yeah, but you know what? Because she's saying, if he's tweeting and golfing, how does he get anything done? That's indirectly at Bill Clinton. If he had been doing other things, he wouldn't have been doing other people.
Okay, so if he golfed and tweeted more.
If there was tweeted existed, he would probably have not
wouldn't have had idle fingers,
Yes.
so to speak. Yeah,
Exactly.
All right,
Among
well, I
other
wasn't
things.
thinking that, but I mean, that's why it's good there's 5 of us around the table. I was watching Bill and his body language.
Yes,
and
not
knowing-
good.
knowing
He's like,
him,
oh,
it
can
was
we get
not
off this
good.
subject?
And he right away picked up the microphone.
It was
'cause he
body
wanted to
Morse
shut
code.
it down. Yeah, he's like, help me, help me. So he didn't love it. So he was picking it up and, then proceeded to try to like redirect and turn it around because he doesn't like when Hillary goes on these tangents. And also he's like, don't, poke the President Trump cage and get him going. And then he'll start tweeting about us again. And he has no desire, no bid to have President Trump focused on him right now. I'll tell you that much.
Jesse, I think she insulted the media by saying she wished for the good old days when there were just a monopoly of patsies.
Right. I mean, Fox broke up the mainstream media Dem monopoly, and they haven't been able to get over it. Hillary reminds me of a corrupt dictator that rigs an election and then whines that she only gets 90% of the vote. It's not enough to get fed debate questions by CNN. It's not enough where Politico runs stories by you so you can approve them. I mean, ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, all the newspapers, all the magazines, Facebook, Twitter, Google. That's not enough. Well, if that's not enough to carry Hillary over the finish line, maybe she didn't deserve it. And you're right, stunning admission. She's saying if Fox News was around, we would have been fair and balanced with the sex scandals. But she's also admitting that these sex scandals were a vast right-wing conspiracy, that the women accusing her husband had no merit.
Right.
And I think that's pretty sad.
And they went after her, after them.
Yeah.
I mean, there was
They
a
went after the
concerted
women.
effort to
Viciously.
go after the women, which is, I guess, maybe that is different now. That hopefully we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, Juan, do you think she's not aware of how the media are reconsidering their role in the 90s? Did she just not follow that? When she was-
Missed
I mean, I first of all, I just so strongly disagree with you because it seems to me.
I am not surprised.
Well, good,
part?
because that's why we have a show. But I mean, what she said was so obvious to me. Guess what? The news media today, including Fox News, really caters to a specific portion of the political people who are interested in politics in this country. And so you have people who will confirm pre-existing biases in the media, whether you're watching MSNBC, Fox News, or whatever, you tune into your favorite talk radio show host. That's the way it works these days. That's not the way it worked back then. And what she said was that currently in this media environment, people don't really care about the facts. They just want to hear
But they didn't
something confirmed that backs
Right.
them. Because the fact is,
They didn't care
Bill
about what he
Clinton-
did.
That's not true. Bill Clinton was impeached.
By
I
whom?
don't know if you missed it.
But the
he
media,
was impeached.
The media said it was just a
No.
act.
No, but it was
Not only
impeach and
that,
cover.
And
Yeah.
not only that, Fox News was around during the time of the impeachment, and Fox News was highly critical of Bill
No,
Clinton.
but they weren't around for Jennifer Flowers
Oh,
and
now
for
you're
Colin
going way
Jones.
back. I think
that's
we're-
what Hillary said.
No, what
He would
Hillary is
never
talking
even have won
about-
the nomination.
I don't. Well, I think that
Let
they
alone
were.
the presidency.
I don't think that's what she's talking about. But I think she's talking about things like
what she
Monica
said.
Lewinsky. And by the way, Monica Lewinsky has said that was a consensual relationship. I think there was a great imbalance in terms of the power
structure,
equation.
right.
Right. But it's not like the young woman was saying something wrong happened in her opinion to her personally. So
He should
again,
have known
I
Except
think
by
that's
Hillary
quite different.
Clinton to Monica and to all,
What?
except
Just
by
think,
Hillary
if she-
Clinton to Monica and to all the other women.
No,
they all
remember,
feel very personally wronged
There was
by Hillary
criticism
Clinton.
of Hillary for not leaving him, for not throwing his clothes out on
Well,
the front
I
lawn
was-
of the
And she
White
would have been,
House.
I think if
More
she had
than
done
that.
that, if she had
She'd
been
be the
impeached,
president.
resigned, she'd be president.
It could. I don't know. I know
She might
what
have
we
beaten
live
Barack
today.
Obama.
But I know that this
should have
thing
adjourned
over
him.
the weekend started with Donald Trump. Donald Trump saying she was the greatest, worst loser of all time. And then when she responds, you go after her. I don't get
No,
it.
well, you know what
No,
that's
no.
like? That's like my little sister. She used to punch me and punch me and punch me all day. And then when I finally hit her back, she'd go, "Oh, Mom, Jesse hit me."
Yeah.
He's just counterpunching.
You hit her back?
I mean, lightly.
Horrible human.
This is coming out in the papers tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what? You got nothing on Charlie Rose.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Well, this Washington Post came out on Charlie Rose today.
Yeah, I heard
He
about
has,
that just
what,
as
8
I sat
accusers for walking around naked in front of people?
Well, I'll tell you, if you want to take the Democrats' point of view, though, Gregory,
Yeah.
go to Kirsten Gillibrand,
Yes.
who's a senator from New York, who took Hillary's seat. I think she'd been in the House 2 terms. Then she takes Hillary's seat. And now she's saying Bill should have quit. They should have thrown him out.
But you could say that now because there's no consequence.
Oh, there is a consequence for Kirsten Gillibrand because I think what you're seeing, I mean, let me just tell you something. Bill Clinton is immensely popular.
Right.
Not only generally, But inside the Democratic Party, very popular.
Most
I
strip
think
clubs.
his power and the power of Hillary Clinton is waning, which is why Donna Brazile, Kirsten Gillibrand, and others can come out. But boy, I'm just shocked. I don't know what this means for Kirsten Gillibrand's future here in New York State.
See, I disagree. Wouldn't you say that it means her future's up and the Clinton dynasty is now a walking corpse?
Well, and that's on purpose. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I think the intention is, to say, okay, listen, enough is enough of these folks, and we've got to move forward with the party. And unless we address the skeletons, which are packed with Clinton skeletons in the closet, they're not going to be able to do that. And they want to have longevity. They're trying to get some elevation on the issue to say, how do we persist forward despite these scandals and what's going on? Well, it's not going to be with the Clintons, and especially when you see now the coverage that it's actually getting that it should have before about Bill Clinton.
Do you think, though, it matters, Kimberly? Because, I mean, President Trump has his own issues, and it doesn't matter to his backers.
Well, there were people that made the allegations, and they had an investigation, and where did any of that, go? I mean, except for the statement to Billy Bush.
No, I think there are lots of people still wondering when they'll get some justice in terms of charges against Donald Trump. But I don't think it, to his backers, they don't want to hear it.
Okay, well, it's going through the appropriate channels of due process
Okay.
and to see what, in fact, will be adjudicated and people that have made the claims.
I just worry that we're in such partisan times that
Yeah.
people don't want to hear about somebody that they support.
I think that we were in partisan times before Fox was around. And then when Fox came, it was like, oh, wait, there's another team that isn't actually, holding the water for us. I think that's what she was saying. I
That's
feel like
also
she was
what the
saying
Pew
like it
Research
was so much
says.
easier having these patsies.
Right. She was saying that Fox is partisan and everybody else in the mainstream media just want the facts. And that's not true.
Less for
Well,
Dana? Anything?
Well, just on the point of the allegations against Charlie Rose that have just come up from the Washington Post, I mean, we are at a point where there might be no one. There might be no bottom to this, and we're all racing to the bottom of it, and we just might
Some
get
faster
there.
than others.
And you just think you could pick up the paper and every day it could
Yeah.
be something else. So I think at some point the conversation has to turn to, okay, then what are we going to do in
Right.
terms of some sort of reconciliation or something that says, okay, guys, so we've exposed you, Me Too, everybody raise their hand, you all are exposed. Can we get to a point then when we say, okay, so then moving forward,
Yes.
here on out, we all agree that sexual harassment is wrong, and moving forward and see if we can try to get past this as a country.
We're also learning that sexual harassment, what do you call it, seminars? They're not working.
Training.
So the training isn't working. They're looking at the research and they're going, it's,
Oh, so we don't have to go next year?
yeah, exactly.
Kidding, I'll be
I've
there.
been to 4 of them and they're all the same.
But don't you think they're intended to protect the company?
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's what it is.
But, but if it's not having an
But he's-
effect,
right.
then you're doing.
But that's
I
what
don't think, does
Juan's
Congress
right.
have sexual harassment
No,
training?
they're just
I
starting
think
it.
they don't
Saying
have that.
it's more like prophylactic, it's good for the company, but are you actually getting something that resonates where there's teachable moments and lessons that people embrace and therefore engage in conduct change going forward that is positive and creates less of that environment?
So I'm not going to the Christmas party.
There you go. All
I'm
right.
so proud you didn't call it holiday party. Juan.
All
Oh, is that right?
I had the father of one UCLA basketball player arrested in China sets off President Trump by downplaying his role in freeing the trio. Trump's wrath next.
Take it down.
When 3 UCLA basketball players returned home from China last week after being accused of shoplifting, they thanked President Trump for helping secure their release. The father of one of them, however, isn't as grateful. When asked about the president's involvement by ESPN, LeVar Ball said, "Who? What was he over there for? Everybody wants to make it seem like he helped me out. If you went to visit them in jail, then I would say thank you." That didn't go over well with the president. In a pair of tweets he wrote, "Now that the 3 basketball players are out of China and saved from years in jail, LeVar Ball, the father of LiAngelo, is unaccepting of what I did for his son and that shoplifting is no big deal. I should have left them in jail." Of course, some critics went wild over that. The White House says, settle down. The president was speaking rhetorically.
Look, the president it was a rhetorical response to a criticism by the father. Again, I think the president was happy to see the release of these individuals and have them back in the United States.
Now, was the president saying these 3 players really should have rotted in prison in China? No, right?
This is him. He gets maximum explosion from minimum effort. He's like so old school. It's like, I should have let you spend the weekend in jail.
That's
Like you
what
get
it is.
arrested on
That's
you get
what it
arrested
is.
on a Friday night,
That's
and
the
you could
line.
and the parents could go, I'm going to be like, you know what? You're going to spend the night. You're going to learn a lesson. But he's not going to do it. He's President Jackie Gleason. This is like, for him, it's fun. And
Look at Juan.
I have friends. I'm so tired of my
I never
friends.
heard that one.
Right?
President Jackie
Jackie
I'm
Gleason.
so tired of my friends getting upset about these things because he's just having fun. He thinks about it for 5 minutes, and the media thinks about it for 5 days, and he moved on. Of course, he doesn't mean this. The other thing that kind of bugged me was a lot of people reading race into this because he's responded to like 2 black athletes, and it's called the fallacy of selective exposure. They forget about every white politician he's attacked, every white European.
He went after Flake this
He
weekend.
went after Flake too. He went after every white European leader on the planet. He's been after every guy in media at CNN, white, female. Oh, at Fox News, he went after a few people who were white and female and male and white. So the idea that
All at once?
the idea that he
One person?
goes after the father of this basketball player or Lynch because they're black, that's a selective exposure fallacy, and you got to let go of it because it's dishonest.
And Juan, everybody hates the father of Ball. This guy's the biggest troll. No one takes him seriously. He's kind of a joke. Shaq hates him. He's going after Michael Jordan. He's a troll. This is what he
Shaq
does.
hates him. That's the standard.
He trolled the president of the United States, and Trump hit back.
Yeah, but to me, this is like, peers. I mean, they're both trolls, right? So they found each other. I hope it's love ever lasting. Because, I mean, I think that LeVar Ball understood that he could get under Trump's very thin skin, and Trump delighted in responding. And so they, and they're both benefiting from this. I guess Ball thinks he's advancing his $350 sneakers sales or something. But I disagree with Greg. I think there is a big racial angle here because he doesn't go after white supremacists. He doesn't go. Oh no,
offender.
he picks who he responds to, Greg. I think it's very direct.
Well, Rosie
Paul Ryan
is
is
as
white.
white as you can get, Juan.
No,
He went after
oh,
her
yeah.
for about 6 years.
Oh, yeah.
Kimberly, what do you think of this fiasco?
I mean, look, this doesn't surprise me because, Trump doesn't let a slight go. He sees something like this as an act of aggression that should be met with an act of aggression. He's sort of like that. He's like old school special ops. You hit me, I hit you back. And he said that.
Yeah.
He told everybody that from the beginning. I'm a counter puncher. You hit me, I'm going to hit you back twice as hard. So why is this some big mystery that anybody needs to go to counseling about, like to figure it out or get like the answer for the secret sauce? This is how he feels. He feels this guy was disrespectful. And Greg's right. It's old school. It's, hey, this is your neighbor who was like, oh, I wouldn't tolerate that. I mean, I got this kid out. They should be appreciative. It's about like respect. So he's not going to take it from this guy. But he's not a very popular guy because, Shaq doesn't.
No, very unpopular.
Very unpopular.
Shaq doesn't like him.
Troller.
Shaq
Oh, I thought you
threshold.
said Jack. Oh, Shaq. I got it now.
Shaquille O'Neal. He's a basketball
I
player.
got it,
Dana.
got it.
He's now a sheriff.
Tall guy, right?
Yeah, you
Very
guys
tall.
similar
Over
in
7
height to
feet
you.
tall.
He also has soreness in his shoulder. He does that commercial
Oh, yeah.
a lot. He's always rubbing
Yeah.
his arm.
That's right. Now, do you think that he should have prefaced one of these tweets with, "This may not be presidential, but," Dana?
I think that's understood. I won't add to anything here. I'm just going to back up and pull out. So the president of the United States, whoever it is, they really don't want to have to ask the president of China to let go 3 people,
No.
regardless of color, for doing something that was clearly against the law in China, against the law
China
here.
owes us one now.
Do you think that President Trump really wanted to say, hey, sorry about that. Can you guys let that's like his first ask.
Yeah.
It's like, could you crack down on North Korea and also let my 3 guys go?
It's
So a little
embarrassing.
bit of humility, which is what the young men expressed last week. I mean, they all said, thank you, we're embarrassed, we're ashamed, we got a second shot, that's good. The other thing is that the president of the United States, he asked for them to be released, okay? There wasn't a big exposure for people who are being held by China for no reason at all and are having their human rights violated.
They got special
And
treatment.
so these guys definitely did. So in terms of like a little exposure, but when it comes to the tweet, like my rule is take the high road and let somebody else fight your battles for you.
I can't reach the high road.
I want to talk about this guy, Lynch. He's a player, running back for the Raiders. He was down playing a game in Mexico City. And he, instead of standing for the national anthem, he sat, but then he stood for the Mexican national anthem. People are very upset about this. Juan, what do you think?
I think what he did was very clear. He is protesting what he sees as social injustice, police brutality in the United States, not Mexico. So he staged a protest against the United States in terms of the anthem. And I understand people who say, oh, it's about the anthem or the flag. That's not what he's about. He's about calling attention, using his platform as an NFL player to get people to pay attention to people who get injured or die and nothing gets done, in the words of some others.
I don't like it at all. I hate it. Gutfeld, what do you think?
I'm going to steal a joke from Nick Gillespie and say that's when they should have started building the wall during that game.
Yeah, just keep them down there.
Keep the Raiders
He
and,
might run right
and
through
the
it, though.
Patriots in Mexico.
There's a lot of people that would agree with that. That is a consensus piece of legislation that could get approved.
That might get the wall built.
I know. And by the way, he's acting in true fashion like the Raiders always have, right? They've always had like that bad
Yeah.
boy image.
That
in the
guy's a
NFL.
renegade.
Oh, my God.
That's why he gets fined so much.
Yeah, so now he's like, but this is what he does.
Yeah, it's what he does.
So I don't know if it's so much that he's so passionate about it in his heart, or he's just,
He's actually just a jerk.
yeah.
Can we just say he's a jerk? The dude
Does
was,
Shaq
the dude
think
was
he's a jerk?
stretching
Shaq thinks he's a
before the
jerk.
last national anthem. He was stretching.
Until he signs with your team, the Niners, then you're going to love him.
No, the Niners are dead to me. They're dead to
Well,
me.
they're dead to themselves,
Sorry.
too.
Greg and I broke
All
up
right,
with
after
the
another
Niners.
U.S. border agent is killed, President Trump renews his call for the wall. Next.
U.S. border agents put their lives on the line each day to protect our country. Tragically, one of them lost his life this weekend, and another is hospitalized in serious condition after coming under attack in southwest Texas. Agent Rogelio Martinez was killed yesterday when responding to the same kind of activity in the Big Bend area. His partner was hurt but survived. Details are still unclear. Authorities are hunting for the suspects. President Trump is vowing to seek out those responsible and bring them to justice. He also reiterated the need for the wall.
As you heard, we lost a Border Patrol officer just yesterday, and another one was brutally beaten and badly hurt. Looks like he'll make it, but very, very badly hurt. And we talk about the wall. We're going to have the wall. It's part of what we're doing. We need it. That's rough territory. That's where the drugs are coming in. A lot of things are happening along the border, the southern border, and we're going to straighten it out.
Obviously, very disturbing story, just the facts and circumstances still developing, as we go to the news right now, Dana. But so you see the president obviously very upset about this, having a very genuine response. He's really had, and even when he was campaigning, reached out and had the support of the Border Patrol and the agents there who've really had a very difficult past in terms of what they've been able to do, whether or not they've been understaffed, and coming under these attacks where it's like they literally don't know. They're going to go home that night to their family.
So there's also an award that the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, has put out. It's $20,000 for any information that leads to the arrest of the, basically the people that ambushed our not military, but our Border Patrol agents.
Yeah.
So then the question is that, would a wall help in this particular area? I think that the wall, writ large, when they get down to business and start writing this legislation and having the discussion, I think it needs to be very clear that there's a lot of things that you can do on the security front. As the president has mentioned, a virtual wall in some places is going to be more practical, and it actually could help probably save lives of our Border Patrol agents before any actual structure could be built because of just the terrain of that area. So I would just advise them as they start to figure out how they're going to ask Congress for the money to appropriate that, yes, it will be possible to have a actual structure in certain places, but to take the win if they get sort of more border security and virtual wall types of equipment down there.
So obviously, Jesse, is still, just a very complex issue. There's a lot of resources that are needed. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, I think, the more resources they have, they're obviously the better in terms of just, men and women on the ground to be able to patrol that area. I mean, a wall, some kind of physical obstruction, I think makes it a little bit easier for their job in terms of making it more difficult for some of the menacing, individuals that try to come over and violate the law.
It does. When someone is killed with a gun, the left wants gun control. But when a Border Patrol agent is killed, you'd think that they'd want border control. And right now, assaults by illegal aliens on Border Patrol agents has hit an all-time high. Up 50% just from last year. 720 assaults on Border Patrol agents this year alone, not even counting September. And although border crossings are way down under President Trump, I think they've only been about 250,000 crossing this year. Last year was about 500,000.
Yeah.
It still shows that there's just pouring across and the border is not secure. Now, I have a border wall update. The contracting process has begun. 8 prototypes have been built. The concrete is settling. They start the testing phase next week. Some you can see through, greater visibility on our side. They average between 18 and 30 feet high. And right now, $20 million has been appropriated. But now the big funding's being tied up potentially in the DACA negotiations, which are going to come around Christmas time.
Okay, and just to, wanted to touch on a point that Jesse made, the reason why this is also so dangerous is these Border Patrol agents work in 2-man teams, and a backup can be hours away, and they're confronted by large numbers because they know the math on it, that you've got 2 guys, and then therefore they can, overcome them.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we have increased the number of border agents astronomically, and we put in more of the type of equipment Dana was talking about, everything from drones to electronic surveillance and all the rest. But I think in this instance, and it's very tragic because he wasn't even shot, he was beaten to death. So this is a really horrible personal type of attack where you have anger and violence involved. But I don't see why you would politicize it then as the basis for a wall when, as Jesse says, crossings are down. In fact, they're a record down. And you've had only 38 agents involved in this kind of violence since '03, and 1 this year. So is this now a new justification for building a wall that nobody in the U.S. wants and nobody in Mexico is willing to pay for? Apparently.
Won 720 assaults on Border Patrol agents.
I don't know what's
year.
going on with that, so I don't
This
have
year.
the background.
That's
Jesse,
because
Well, the
they're
background
tell
is from
you
the U.S. Border Patrol.
They're
Right,
very
but I'm just
vulnerable.
saying,
I don't doubt their statistics.
in terms of people being killed, in terms of agents putting their lives on the line,
Right.
as Kimberly was discussing, we've had 1 this year, and it's just not a reason to say, oh, yeah, we better rush to build. Change your opinion on the wall, America.
Okay, Greg?
Well, we know it's not an easy job. They are the nation's bouncers. Border agents they're the first person facing the external challenges. And this is the irony of this whole story. Politicians in sanctuary cities don't have to think about border agents. The actions of a border agent actually make the lives of the people in the sanctuary cities easier because they don't get to the sanctuary cities and cause more problems.
Right.
So the border agent. So if you took away these border agents because you felt it's mean, then your sanctuary cities will be more murderous than you could ever imagine. We need to drag this country into a contemporary understanding of the border. The border isn't just about immigration; it's national security. The advent of terror plus technology is going to make it possible for one person to sneak across with a drone and bioterror married together and create havoc that will make 9/11 look smaller. So we have to think about it in a bigger, more global way. It's not just about immigration, it's about our futures.
Absolutely. We want to protect those that are serving our country and give them the resources that they need. And the numbers were woefully low, so now that's why we've had to hire more. More to be done. And Charles Manson is dead after more than half a century behind bars. The evil, murderous legacy he leaves behind next.
One of America's most notorious killers dead. Charlie Manson breathed his last breath last night. He died of natural causes at age 83 after nearly half a century behind bars. Manson terrorized Los Angeles in 1969 when he commanded his followers to kill actress Sharon Tate and 6 others. Geraldo Rivera interviewed the notorious cult killer in San Quentin back in the 80s.
Yeah, you could use the word devil or demons or whatever you want to call it.
Mostly the devil in your world, eh, Charlie?
Well, okay, I'll play. There's no game I can't play.
The
There's
people
no
that say
game I haven't played.
you are the devil here.
Okay, I'll be the devil then.
You like that?
I don't like or dislike nothing. I see everything as it is.
Wow. I don't even know how to think of somebody who would create a cult and order that someone go in and kill. And I mean, it wasn't just killing, it was violent, horrible stabbings and the like, Greg.
But he was the first identity politics terrorist. The point was to kill a bunch of white people and pin it on the Black Panthers. That's why they did that. That's why they wrote the stuff in blood on the walls. He was trying to create an apocalyptic race war. The less said about him, though, is probably the better. The media devotes way too much ink on the irrational fascination with evil. We see hours of forensic files and all of these special documentaries. Meanwhile, thousands of good people die every single day. They lead quiet, noble lives. The little old lady who slips in a bathtub that you don't ever hear about, the guy who gets hit by a bus trying to meet his family. Della Reese died today. She's a great woman.
Wonderful.
But
Touched by an angel.
yeah, but this touched by a devil here gets more ink than being touched by an angel.
True.
You know, so let me talk to my California girl.
Yes.
So what did you think of him and the idea? There's now one of the people who participated in these murders, Leslie Van Houten. She's 69, but she has been pardoned. It's going to be up to the governor to decide whether or not to let her out. What do you think?
I don't think she should get out. I don't think anybody associated with this and participated as an accessory and accomplice with respect to these horrific murders should ever get out. In fact, the man who trained me at the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, Stephen Kay, was one of the Manson prosecutors in these murders and the Tate LaBianca murders, along with Vincent Bugliosi. And he has faithfully every time been summoned and going to fight on behalf of these victims to prevent these animals from being released. That history and time should not forget the misdeeds and the horrific crimes that they committed. You know, he spent so much time with them and said he just unbelievably, horrifically evil individual that you could not even possibly, you know, imagine. And so I don't think the right message is to pardon or to let people out.
Yeah.
That is not the right form of, you know, to show that as a deterrent to people to commit a crime like this. I'm so happy that this man died in jail and was never released. And it was not easy, believe me. They had to fight hard to be able to keep him in, if you can imagine that, because otherwise you would never think in a million years like anyone would have a quarrel with keeping somebody like this in, you know?
So, Jesse, in reading about this, some things just jumped out at me. One is, he's born from a prostitute, doesn't know his father, takes his stepfather's name. Then you get into a situation where he is hanging around with Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys and Terry Melcher, who was a record producer. He thinks he has musical talent, doesn't get picked up, and that's why he goes to that house where Roman Polanski lived with Sharon Tate. And by the way, he was a big fan of Dale Carnegie. That's how he learned the principles that he used to create the cult. It's amazing.
Yeah, he's a mentally ill maniac. He said, this is a killer quote, "I am crime." Geraldo, hats off to him. The guy got him on tape right there in prison saying, "I am the devil." And I think to what Greg was saying, I think it's good sometimes when you spotlight evil. Not all the time, but just to look evil in the eye, to see what it is so you really know what good is. And it also goes to show a mind control. The amount of mind control he had over these cult followers, and you're always, taking these psychedelic drugs, the power he had over them was just phenomenal.
And over so many women.
Knock the drugs.
Well, and over so many women, like Greg said. I mean,
they were mostly women, and that's always been an interesting element to cults, is that women are attracted for some women who are naive or gullible are attracted to that kind of thing.
Okay, so Dana, I have a challenge
Okay.
for you. You're a sweet soul, and I wonder if you can tell us what you would say nice about someone like this who just died.
Don't take the challenge.
Can't do it.
Good food for maggots.
Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
I guess. But I would say that spotlighting this evil when I was a kid, and he scared the crap out of me. And I was terrified of cults, of mind control, and of the evil. And I think that at least knowing about it helped me, at least navigate a little bit more all of that stuff.
Me too.
All right.
Great point.
Love him or hate him, somebody must have been the first person to take a selfie. Well, guess what? Paris Hilton thinks it's her. But there's lots of photographic evidence that seems to prove otherwise. Next.
A very important question for you now. Who do you think invented the selfie? Paris Hilton has set the internet on fire after claiming she and Britney Spears did 11 years ago, posting these pictures from 2006. Many are taking issue with that claim. Here's some photographic evidence. Thelma and Louise took one back in the 90s. Colin Powell posted this snapshot from the 1950s. But perhaps the oldest existing selfie is from the 1800s, taken by a photographer named Robert Cornelius, and that is in Jesse's hometown of Philadelphia.
And his collar's up.
He was
I
kind of
love that.
stylish. He was a slightly
short guy.
Maybe
That
you're like
Cornelius.
reincarnated from him.
I hope
The name
so.
Cornelius.
I do too. Now, I learned how to
Lady?
take a selfie. I was watching E! one time, and
Okay.
Kim Kardashian said you're supposed to hold it high
Yep.
and at a 45-degree angle.
Oh.
Not in front, high and at a
45.
45-degree,
Oh.
high and at a 45-degree like that.
Thank
Story
you,
of my
Jesse.
life.
Everybody,
Didn't
pay
we
attention.
figure that out already?
What do you think,
I
Kimberly?
didn't know.
I mean, Paris Hilton, basically, she doesn't, might as well claim it.
By the way, I mean, kind of, she was the one that started it all up again. I mean, no disrespect to your
Cornelius.
doppelganger, Cornelius over there.
Yeah, I
Of
hope I'm in the
pop
will.
collar. But she was the one doing it all the time. The people started really this like incessant thing with selfies. And then remember the selfie stick?
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. Juan has one of those, right, Juan?
No, in fact, that was going to be my thing because you walk down the street in New York, right? And especially now with the holiday season, these people have these sticks. They're wheeling them. They don't have any consciousness
No
that there's
respect.
somebody
You gotta
else.
have respect if you have the stick.
See, Juan's
Right.
old school.
Okay,
What do you think?
let's be honest here. If Paris Hilton did not invent the selfie, she invented the sex tape. If we probably don't remember that because every day now we have a scandal. So we used to only get one scandal a year. Remember, it'd be one scandal, and that was one of them. Now every day we have an avalanche of impropriety. The difference is it's not Paris Hilton. It's Charlie Rose and Al Franken. I mean, it's just thinking of that makes me nauseous.
You long for the days of
when the
Paris
people
Hilton
at sex
scandals.
scandals
Don't forget Glenn Thrush.
and Glenn Thrush. Don't
forget.
Yes, they're all creepy men.
Tune in tomorrow morning when we'll have 20 more to talk about. All right,
exactly.
one more thing is up next.